Start.
Hello, good morning student. Today we have start here for an important topic which is actually part of another topic called as a control and coordination. Today we have start here for the chemical coordination. As we have already studied about the first part of the topic, that is called as a nervous coordination. We know that this topic is much more important for the NEET exam as well as board exam because this topic has a much more applicable content. So, such a type of topic, it has near about 3 to 4 questions in your NEET exam. 3 to 4 questions. They are basically on the physiology, means the structure of the parts, and 2 questions on the application. So, from the point of view of board exam as well as NEET exam, this topic is much more important. So that's why we have studied first of all the first part of the topic, that is called as a nervous coordination, and today we have start here for the chemical coordination. Now the nervous coordination, what we have studied? We have studied that the nervous coordination occurs with the help of nerves. It carries the impulses. Thirdly, it particularly transfer impulses quickly, rapid. It means the rapid. Whereas its effect is short-lived. Its effect is short-lived. But here, there are certain differences in chemical coordination. What are that differences? That differences are the chemical coordination occurs with the help of chemical substances. These are called as hormones. Secondly, they are the simple chemical substances. They may be protein, they may be steroid, they may be fatty acid derivative or any other. Their coordination is very slow, but their effect is permanent, or it may be called as a lifelong. It remains till the complete life of the person. So such a type of 2 important coordination occurs in the human body. The question may arises in the mind is that if the control and coordination is performed by the nervous system, then what is the need of this chemical coordination? So remember that there are many functions in the body which occurs slowly and steadily, permanent for the lifelong, and that's why such a type of chemical coordination is needed. So chemical coordination occurs with the help of hormones. Hormones are nothing but the chemical messenger, and such a type of hormones, they are secreted by the glands. First of all, the glands are studied in the branch of biology, and that branch of biology is called as endocrinology. Whereas the first hormone, which is, or the study of glands, which is done firstly and enormously by the scientist named as Thomas Edison. To give honor to that scientist, we here called that scientist as a father of endocrinology. The first hormone discovered by the scientist E. Sterling in 1903. Hence, the first hormone discovered by the Sterling, that is called as a secretin. So these are the points which are very important from the point of view of the NEET exam, as well as they are also asked in your board exam. So here the hormones are the chemical messengers, and these are secreted by the glands. As we have already studied in the 11th standard, the glands are of again 3 types. The first one is called as the particularly exocrine glands. Second one is called as the endocrine glands, and third one is called as the holocrine glands. So we have studied this part in 11th standard. That's why we have not need to give detail about these types of glands. But here something is important, that exocrine glands are duct-bearing glands. They pour their secretion through the duct. For example, liver. Liver carry out their secretion with the help of bile duct. The endocrine glands, they are called as the ductless glands. Here is the duct-bearing glands, whereas the endocrine glands are ductless glands. We have studied the examples just like the pituitary gland, then the thyroid gland, the thymus gland, and many others. The holocrine is the third type of glands, and they have half of the gland is exocrine, whereas half of the gland is endocrine. And the example of holocrine gland is pancreas. The exocrine part of the pancreas secrete the pancreatic juice, whereas endocrine part of the pancreas which secrete the particularly the glucagon hormone, insulin hormone, as well as the somatostatin hormone. So we have studied this part in the 11th standard. Then also we have know that the hormones are chemical messengers, and they have its own properties. What are the different properties of hormone? So hormones have a low molecular weight. First property. Second one, they are secreted in traced amount, means very small quantity. Thirdly, they are secreted by a gland in one part, but their effect occurs on the distant part of the body. Fourthly, such a type of gland, they are, or their secretions are very target specific. They does not show any type of side effects. So they are very target specific. Such a type of hormone, they are particularly carry out their mechanism by modifying the cell metabolism. The cell metabolism get modified by the gland, and it is carried out throughout the body. So such that they are carried along with the blood and proteins. They are combined with the proteins, and they carried along the blood where the target organ is present. So these are the few properties, but they are secreted by the gland, and such a type of secretions, if they are occurs in excess or which are in deficiency. So if they are secreted in excess or in deficiency, they produce the disorders. So there is no threatened condition about this disorder, because if their secretion are in deficiency, then we have to inject some artificial hormones. And if their gland secretion is in excess, then we have to carry on the surgery and part of the gland is removed from the body. So such a type of cure to the disorders occur to such a type of gland. But there are certain classification of the gland occurs or hormones occur on the basis of their stimulation. So such a type of hormones, they are called as autohormones. If they are stimulating or their secretion stimulate itself. Their secretion stimulate itself. So such a type of hormones are called as endocrines. Secondly, there are certain glands, their secretion, they are stimulating neighboring cells. So neighboring cells, they get stimulated due to the paracrines. Third one is called as endocrines. These are the glands, their secretions, they are stimulating the distant cells. The cells are present on the certain distance. They get stimulated by the endocrines. Whereas certain type of the hormones, these are called as pheromones. Generally, this term is used for the insect hormones, and such insect, they secrete the pheromones to attract the female insect for the breeding purposes. So such a type of hormones which stimulate the other organism. So that is called as the pheromones. So such a type of जर दुसऱ्या insectला या ठिकाणी attract करतात, other organismsला attract करतात, त्यांना आपण काय म्हणतो? Pheromones. So these are called as autocrines, paracrines, endocrines, and fourth one is the pheromones. These are given in our board textbook. The other chemical nature is also given in our textbook in a separate box. There are the chemical nature of hormone. They may be peptide hormone, just like the hormones of the pituitary gland. They may be growth hormone. They may be the ACTH hormone. There may be the TSH hormone. These are the actually peptide hormones. Certain hormones are fatty acid derivatives. So fatty acid derivatives, for example, just like the prostaglandins, some of them are the steroidal hormones which contains the steroid, just like the testosterone, the progesterone. So such a type of hormone are steroidal hormone. Some are in gaseous state, just like the nitric oxide. Such a type of hormone is also present. Some hormones are antagonistic. They are opposite to each other in their action. For example, TCT and parahormone. One of them decrease the calcium level in the blood, whereas other is increase the calcium level in the blood. So such hormones are opposite in their action, and therefore they are called as antagonistic. Whereas some are synergistic in action. It means they are collectively act upon the particularly same organ. That is called as a synergistic. There are such a type of hormones. These are called as a merocrine. When their secretion does not contain any part of the gland, then such a type of gland is called as a merocrine gland. When such a type of gland or their secretion contain the protoplasm of the cell, then they are called as apocrine glands. Whereas there are certain glands which get destroyed after secretion. Means once they are the glands secreted, then these are get destroyed. So their secretion contain the complete part of the gland, that is called as a holocrine gland. So the first example of merocrine gland is a sweat gland. We know that the sweat gland is also called as a sudoriferous gland, whereas apocrine glands are nothing but the mammary glands. So mammary glands are apocrine glands, whereas the holocrine glands are the particularly called as a sebaceous gland or oil glands, it may be called as. So such a type of glands are also present. We know that we have studied about the glands and hormone. These are the very important point from the point of view of your NEET exam, as well as we must know what is meant by the hormone and which hormones are secreted by the glands. So first of all, the first hormone that is secreted is named as a secretive. Another one term is also used, and that term is called as particularly the local hormone. This is the another term is used in biology. Local hormone means that hormone which is secreted in the part and which remain in that part. Their action is also in that part. So just like, for example, the hormone gastrin, which is secreted in stomach and their action is also in the stomach. So such hormones are called as a local hormone. So these are the few important terms which are introductory part of this topic, that is called as a chemical coordination. Now we have start actual article from this topic, first article from this topic, and that is the mechanism of hormone action. So mechanism of hormone action occurs on the basis of nature of that hormone. So particularly nature of that hormone here, which we have to study first of all. There are two types of hormones on the basis of their solubility. Some hormones, they are water soluble, whereas some hormones, they are lipid soluble. This is the basic, remember that. Another one term is important, and that term is, we know that our plasma membrane of cell, which is made up of from lipids and proteins. So here what happens in the mechanism of hormone action? The hormone is always act upon the organs. These organs are called as target organs. Such organs are called as target organs. Now these target organs have certain the specific binding sites. The target organ has specific binding sites. So what happens here? Suppose this is the membrane of the cell. What happens here? This is the actual, the specific receptor. So here we suppose that this is called as a receptor. Being on the membrane, this This is the plasma membrane of the cell. Being on the membrane, this is called as a membrane receptor. Now what happens when target molecule comes here? Then it gradually comes at the plasma membrane and it remains in the receptor. So what happens here? Here a complex is formed and this complete complex is now called as hormone receptor complex. This is called as a hormone receptor complex. Now what happens? Now due to such a type of formation of hormone receptor complex, what happens? Certain biochemical changes takes place in target tissue. Certain biochemical changes takes place in target tissue. Due to these biochemical changes, what happens? There is the certain expenditure of ATP molecules. Here one enzyme is working that is called as adenine cyclase. It converts ATP into the AMP. Cyclically it is produced, therefore it is called as a cyclic AMP. Now the hormone molecule is the first messenger, whereas the cyclic AMP is now the second messenger. Now here it works as a second messenger. What happens here? The second messenger now carry on the further reactions inside the cell. So such a type of the process occurs. The hormone which are water soluble, because such a type of hormone they are water soluble and plasma membrane is made up of from lipids and proteins, and that's why such a type of hormones they cannot enter inside the plasma membrane, they cannot pass the plasma membrane, hence they generate second messenger. And they work with such a type of second messenger and carry out the further reactions inside the cell. So this is called as the membrane bounded receptor. So here mechanism of hormone action on the membrane bounded receptor. So such a type of membrane bounded receptors work here for the production of second messenger. There are many substances just like the cyclic AMP, then the calcium, then the IP3, they act as the second messenger here, inositol phosphate. So they occur as a second messenger. They work as a second messenger. It can be asked in your exam, in particularly multiple choice question. What are the different types of second messenger occurs in the mechanism of action of hormone? So we must remember that these are the hormones which carry out such. Another is called as intracellular receptors. What happens? Certain hormones are lipid soluble, and the lipid soluble hormones, they are when came to the target organ. We know that the target organ has a plasma membrane, and plasma membrane it also consists of lipids and proteins. That's why what happens when hormone, lipid soluble hormone molecule, when it come at the target organ, then it directly pass into the cell cytoplasm. After passing in the cell cytoplasm, what happens? After passing into cell cytoplasm, here there is no generation of second messenger. Here is no generation of second messenger, just like that. And directly hormones, they are directly passed into the cytoplasm. Now what happens? Remember that the hormone molecule when comes into the cytoplasm, then it combines with the intracellular receptor, particularly steroidal hormone. Steroidal hormone. When they came in, they combine with the intracellular receptor. Again, same thing is happened, that hormone receptor complex is to be formed inside the cytoplasm, but it does not remain there. It remains in a cytoplasm certain time. After that, it comes inside the nucleus. Then it interacts with the DNA molecule, and certain changes are evoked at the intracellular receptor, and that's why now the transcription occurs and new molecule of mRNA is synthesized. This mRNA molecule comes here outside the cell, outside the nucleus. This is the nucleus. It comes outside the nucleus, and then the protein synthesis, it means thus enzyme synthesis occurs, and which carry out the actual physiological changes inside the cell. So remember that the water soluble hormones, they are catecholamines. The amino acid derivatives, they are water soluble, whereas the steroidal hormone, they are lipid soluble. So both the type of mechanism of hormone action occurs. One is with the membrane bounded receptors and other is with the intracellular receptors. So these are the particularly hormone action occurs. What we have studied in this period, first of all we have studied what is meant by chemical coordination. Then we have studied what is the difference between the nervous coordination and chemical coordination. Then we have studied what is meant by the actual hormones. Then we have studied hormones are secreted by glands. So what are the types of glands? The exocrine gland, endocrine gland, and the particularly called as a mixed gland or holocrine gland. Then we have studied three types of glands: the apocrine gland, merocrine gland, and the holocrine gland. Then we have studied the hormone type of the hormones, just like the autocrines, paracrines, endocrines, and pheromones. Then again we have studied two types of hormones: the antagonistic hormone and synergistic hormone. Then we have proceed further properties of hormones. Then we have studied the mechanism of action of hormone in membrane bounded receptors as well as intracellular receptors. So this topic is important for the NEET exam, and we have studied all the important points from the NEET as well as board. Thank you once again.